Hello, and welcome to episode 0 of this 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons podcast. I am Ryan, your host and dungeon master for this campaign. The purpose of this short episode is to briefly explain a little bit of history for all the characters involved, as well as an introduction for the scenario they find themselves in at the beginning of the campaign in episode 1. We haven't come up with an official name for our campaign yet, but the channel is called Nat One Fam for now. I will give further details about our actual lives and motivations for doing this podcast at the end, as well as crediting the music we use. But for now, let's just get this episode rolling. Here is the introduction to the location and conflict for our campaign, so I hope you enjoy the listen. Waterdeep, the city of splendor, the crown of the north due to its far-spreading and influential nature. If you're somebody, or trying to become somebody, you're involved in the going-ons and trading of this city. A hotbed for religion, culture, heists, art, and pleasure, there is a little something for everyone in Waterdeep. But, of all the storied locations and landmarks in Waterdeep, this evening our characters find themselves at the modestly constructed Yawning Portal Tavern. Some people present may be there for a specific purpose, while others are just here out of pure happenstance. Regardless, this night spells opportunity for anyone able to hear it. Now, each character finds themselves in their own little isolated part of the tavern. For whatever reason, this welcoming and cozy place finds itself fairly vacant for its size. Looking around this place, only a handful of humans are visible, distracted by a dancer in the corner, while a range of unique races fills the tapestry of patrons. Most of these individuals are idle, but still appear to be anxious. Maybe they are waiting for something, or someone. The barkeep, Dernan, goes about his business, paying no mind to the emotionally distraught feeling lingering in the air. He himself, just an average-looking human, seemingly with no special qualities, except for the way how he confidently stands in front of rows of oddities, curios, and magical trinkets adorning the wall behind him. And yet, he continues to conduct his barkeep duties with a glimmer in his eye that basically says, "Yes, the rumors are all true, and what of it?" The fire cast from the brick oven from the right side of Dernan and his collection only strengthens the image of his secret fortitude, as it lights him with a sort of unnatural mysticism. The tavern itself exudes a warmth that could easily lead one to getting some shut-eye, if it were not for the constant waking chill of the expansive well in the center of the room, stealing all surrounding heat in an attempt to warm its long, winding underground entrails. As much as this tavern could easily feel like home, the well was a constant reminder of what it concealed, a direct connection to tantalizing mysteries and the danger that is usually accompanied with the unknown. But the lack of certainty or knowledge of these unknown opportunities only make them that much more tantalizing to those willing to take the risk. And suddenly, the manifestation of risk slid through the door. A dark, cloaked figure hovered in like a shadow, only letting the clunk of the door behind him to signal his presence. He makes his way to a table and politely declines a drink from the barmaid. Soon after, in one lithe motion, he pulls a deck of cards out of the nothingness of air and begins to shuffle quietly. He speaks calmly in a soft voice, but with enough volume to dominate the room. People were naturally drawn close and began to listen. The cards he moved and twirled and careened between his fingers appeared to have faces and environments and monsters. They moved so quick, it was hard to make out any specific one, or the significance of the creatures involved, or whether they belonged to the past, present, or future. He told those that would listen, "Come close and listen to what I have to say about the castle that became the Sunless Citadel. Originally a bright, beautiful beacon of human ingenuity to protect the North from its enemies, it slowly festered and became a literal shadow of its former self. The mage Sam Master was the one who drew in the darkness under the noses of his superiors.
Once his shadow took hold of the castle, its inhabitants were under his control. Through corruption of magic he acquired from studying under his rival, teacher, and greatest critic Elminster, Sam Master founded the Cult of the Dragon. With his cult, he finally had the power to do what no other had before. He drew upon dark forces and created arguably one of the most obscene abominations still plaguing our plane today. He was the first to resurrect a dragon from the dead, and in doing so, created the evil Draco Liches, an undying dragon with magnified power over its original form. An army of these dragons were to be created and unleashed to upend our very existence, if it were not for the cataclysm that transpired. Many argue what occurred. Some say the Earth God Moradin, who had tunnels below the castle, became displeased and caused an earthquake to swallow the castle. Others say Sam Master was unknowingly drawing dark forces from the tunnels beneath him, and one day he demanded too much from the earth, and so it crumbled from his own avarice. Finally, some say the creatures below ground in the Underdark became irritated with the noise and shaking the castle began to spew with the arrival of the shadow dragons. So goblins, kobolds, bugbears, hobgoblins, and the like all banded together for the first time in history to excavate the earth and send the castle tumbling asunder. After this, it is said, those factions went right back to warring for the newly available underground fortress. Regardless of what you believe, the facts remain the same. The castle now resides under the earth and has become the Sunless Citadel. I bring you this knowledge to prepare those of you who continue to listen and will embark on the quest I have to give you, since respecting and understanding where you are when fighting for dear life is half the battle. I have informants that have made me aware for the first time in centuries there are new developments occurring underground. The sun has finally returned to the Sunless Citadel, specifically the Black Sun, a tool known as a sphere of annihilation used by Sam Master to connect to the Tomb of Horrors and manifest his prized Draco Liches. As you can assume, the slow but strong return of the dragon cult would spell danger for this plane. I wish to prevent this possible apocalypse if you will aid me. If you can retrieve the sphere that is key to the Shadow Dragon army, I believe we can prevent our shared demise. I can pay you handsomely, of course, if that is what you need to take this hefty risk. But I'm sure some of you will take this adventure for the pure thrill, or because you value your life or your loved ones. So, there you have it. Essentially consider this to be a gracious warning with benefits. I wish you all good luck. For those who take this journey, I'm sure the patrons here can help you better prepare for what will lie ahead.
The cloaked figure abruptly ends his speech and card shuffling to now exit the tavern. He is suddenly stopped by one man demanding to ask, "Well, what was the point of the cards then?" The cloaked person succinctly replies,
My deck of many things told me everything I now need to know.
And just like that, he was gone, leaving tension in the air of the mostly vacant tavern. Now that the stakes have been laid out, allow me to introduce our intrepid adventurers that find themselves at the Yawning Portal Tavern this night. Krusk is a half-orc fighter with a violent past, having belonged to an infamous mercenary group. He made himself valuable and slowly rose up through the ranks as his clan traveled, vanquishing evil wizards from the lands. Though, eventually, an error on the battlefield only known by him and his former comrades has led to a self-exile by Krusk in an attempt to right his wrongs. Krusk is a stoic individual who becomes most enthusiastic when he finds creative ways of eviscerating his foes. Krusk's only current weaknesses are contact with the arcana and his inability to bond with others. Ellie is a forest gnome that has recently reached adulthood. She has decided to leave her village, though, after long years of being shunned by gnome society from an incident in her adolescence. Decades ago, she attempted to befriend a badger and misjudged the situation, which resulted in a scar across her face. After this, no other gnomes wanted to look at her, much less speak to her. So, she decided to put all her energy into making the badger that wounded her into her new friend and family. After succeeding, though, it was all she had up until the eventual death of old age. Her hopes are to perform and bring happiness wherever she goes, and make new friends along the way if she can. Aganra is a changeling ranger who is naturally mysterious and always shape-shifting. Their true alliance is entirely unknown, since they always seem to be up to some sort of mischief. But if you seem like a worthwhile addition, you will most likely find an invitation and contract in your hand for the ever-growing circus troupe created by Aganra himself. On top of valuable recruits, Aganra loves the hunt for treasure and magical oddities and relics. Aganra's love of the circus even extends to the battlefield, where they can be found finding creative solutions and deftly slicing through foes. Ansel is a tiefling cleric naturally split between two worlds. His blood tells him to act out his darkest, most infernal machinations, while his pious upbringing under Thor pushes him towards actions of justice and good. Loki is the other god Ansel follows in secret, always trying to intervene and tip him over into the darkness permanently. Ansel's rebellious nature has led to him leaving his temple, and is now searching for his own answers for who he is meant to become. Randall is a young man who was raised in a brothel, where he has seen a diverse range of people and cruelty. His upbringing has afforded him a unique perspective, though, that many do not get to see or understand. This has translated into his approach as a paladin as he goes and conducts good deeds while being attracted to almost every being he meets. This includes being attracted to every piece of treasure he can find, but he doesn't forget to spread the wealth around. Because of his polyamorous ways, Randall has naturally become a follower of Sune, the deity of love, beauty, and passion. Along his travels, Randall always seems to find himself in chaotic situations, one of which may have been with Ansel himself. So essentially, that is all you need to know to have context and further your enjoyment for the events that begin in episode 1. But also to reiterate briefly, and so people can understand who is who, I'll attach names to our characters. So Robert will be our half-orc fighter Krusk. Dakota will be our force gnome Ellie. Danny will be our changeling ranger Aganra. Jordan will be our tiefling cleric Ansel. and Logan is our human paladin, Randall. And this seems like a good point to explain how this basically came about. Essentially, we're just a group of people of varying experience playing Dungeons & Dragons. Some of us are complete noobs, and I myself have never DM'd before, but I'm hoping that our chemistry and enjoyment of the game will just make for an entertaining listen and depict that spirit and essence of the game that makes it so enjoyable and fun to listen to. We just started recording this because I had the gear and it seemed fun to have for later, especially to just share with friends and family. But now we're thinking it would be fun for anyone who stumbles upon it that happens to connect with our characters and the adventure. And in turn, hopefully that will motivate and inspire people to go out and play with others as well, which is why it's probably experiencing the resurgence it currently is. Just that pure fun of socializing and making something together with friends. So, that is basically all I had to say about us. The rest is just going to be about bureaucratic stuff for those interested. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy our campaign. Okay, so bureaucratic stuff. Essentially, I have no idea how to actually post a podcast online and have it be accessible conveniently from an app or something. So in the meantime, I will be posting on YouTube, as it's very convenient and seemingly without upload limits for size and length at this point. So I want to be uploading an hour episode once a week when I have extra free time, hopefully twice a week if possible. The first 6 episodes or so may not be the best audio quality since it was our first session and there were some kinks we were working out. In general, I hope the quality will be vastly better when we begin our next story arc, which will be Tomb of Annihilation. I'm not entirely sure how to do it, but I will figure it out at some point. I want all of our videos to always be demonetized and ad-free. Ads just go against our whole reason for playing, and interruptions in the middle of listening just sucks and are distracting. We plan on using plenty of nerdy music that we enjoy, as well as references and tributes. So hopefully videos like this one won't be taken down. But in general, I hope in the future that people will narrate their character intros and story arcs, so this video might be redone anyway. Finally, I'm just going to go ahead and list off the songs and YouTube channels that were used for this episode. Direct links will be found below. The song I used for Randall was called 2 Steps from Hell on a channel called ThePrimeCronus. The song I used for Ansel was Final Fantasy VI's Kefka's theme. It's an orchestral remix that's really awesome on Malcolm Robinson Music on YouTube. For Ellie's music, it was part of the Over the Garden Wall soundtrack that I found on on Cartoon Network's YouTube channel. Great show, great soundtrack, check it out. The music that I used for Krusk was from the Full Metal Alchemist Symphony. It was posted by a YouTube channel called Server. Great show. Check out that channel. And finally, I used The Legend of Zelda's Song of Storms, but it was a really cool orchestra cover that can be found on Matt Bulk Music. There's a video called Fireplace Sounds Medieval Tavern in Ambience by the Guild of Ambience on YouTube. I used that for kind of background sounds while introducing the Yawning Portal Tavern. I then used bits from Spooky Music and Magical Music by Derek and Brandon Fiechter. I believe that's how you pronounce their names. They have a bunch of great fantasy music, so I highly recommend looking into their videos. By the way, their last name is spelled F-I-E-C-H-T-E-R. And finally, I used 2 hours of fantasy music by Adrian von Ziegler. He composes his own stuff. He has a cool YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. Good music for anybody's campaign. I just wanted to say as a real quick edit The songs I actually used by Adrian von Ziegler were Celtic fantasy music, The Lonely Road, and Walking with Ancestors, which were used for the intro and what you are currently hearing. And in general, for everyone I've listed, please go out and support their channels, because somebody was involved in making that music, and I definitely want to give credit where it's due. But basically, that's it. So, yeah, thanks for listening.